My ex-wife used our child as a weapon, so I revealed the hidden truth. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I pulled into the driveway that Friday evening, heart pounding with the usual mix of nerves and anticipation. It was my weekend with Emily, my 6-year-old daughter, and every time I got to see her, it felt like a small victory in a war I never asked to fight. I had even picked up her favorite stuffed bunny from the dry cleaners. Its ear had torn last week, and I'd gotten it stitched up. I wanted her to see that I remembered, that I cared. But when the front door opened, it wasn't Emily running out into my arms. It was Sarah, my ex-wife, standing with that smile. That fake, practiced smile I'd come to dread. Behind her, Emily peeked out, clutching the doorframe, her eyes wide and wet. "Daddy's here," I called gently, kneeling down so she wouldn't feel so small. But Emily didn't move. She just shook her head and whispered something to Sarah. My stomach dropped. Sarah leaned in, her voice dripping with venom disguised as sugar. "She doesn't want to go with you, Mark. She said you scare her." It felt like someone punched me in the chest. "What?" I croaked. Emily shook her head again, but this time she looked at me as if afraid to speak. I reached out my hand. "Sweetheart, you know I'd never hurt you. Never." But Sarah crouched down beside her, whispering loud enough for me to hear. "Remember what we talked about? Daddy makes you feel unsafe. You don't have to go if you don't want to." My throat burned. "Sarah, this is manipulation, and you know it. Stop putting words in her mouth." She smirked, standing tall again. "Tell that to the judge." "Oh, wait. You will, because I've already filed a motion to restrict your visitation, based on Emily's own fears." The ground seemed to tilt beneath me. My daughter's eyes flickered between us, her tiny lips trembling. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't scare her more. I swallowed hard, forcing calm into my voice. "Emily, you can always tell me the truth. Always." And then, just for a second, she whispered so softly I almost missed it. "Mommy said you don't love me anymore." The words shattered something deep inside me. I could feel Sarah's satisfaction radiating like poison, but all I could think was, if she's willing to twist our daughter against me, how far will she go next? The question answered itself the following morning when I got a call from my lawyer. Sarah had submitted evidence that painted me as a danger to Emily, screenshots, accusations, even fake messages I'd never sent. I realized with a cold certainty that this wasn't just about custody anymore. Sarah was building something bigger, darker, and I had no idea how far down the rabbit hole I was about to fall. And then, that night, I found something hidden on my porch that proved she wasn't acting alone. When I got home that night, I almost missed it. A folded piece of paper, tucked into the corner of my porch swing, weighed down by a small rock. No envelope, no signature, just a single sheet of paper, smudged from the damp air. I sat down, my hands trembling as I opened it. The handwriting was jagged, hurried, like someone was scared of being caught. "She's not working alone. Watch the messages. Someone is feeding her lies to use against you. Don't trust anyone close." I stared at the words, my pulse hammering in my ears. My first thought was, who? Who would care enough to warn me? And who was close enough to know what Sarah was doing? I scanned the street. Empty. Just a few porch lights glowing in the distance. The sound of a dog barking 2 houses down. Whoever left the note was long gone. I went inside and paced the living room, the note clutched in my hand. My mind raced. Sarah already had evidence fabricated against me. Now this anonymous warning. If she had help, that meant every lie she told could be backed up, reinforced, made to look airtight in court. The next morning, I couldn't shake the unease. I texted my best friend, Jason, the one person who'd stood by me through the divorce. "Man, she's playing dirty again. Found something weird last night." He replied too quickly, "Don't worry. Judges don't fall for that stuff. Just stay calm." But the words felt hollow. Judges do fall for that stuff. I knew it. I'd seen fathers stripped of custody on less. Later that afternoon, I met with my lawyer. I slid the note across his desk, hoping it might mean something. He read it, frowning. "If this is real, Mark, you need to tread carefully. Whoever's helping her could be accessing your accounts, your messages, anything to make you look unstable." I felt sick. "So what? You think someone's inside my life, handing her ammunition?" He nodded grimly. "And if that's the case, we'll have to find out who before it destroys you." I left his office with my stomach twisted in knots. The thought that someone close to me might be feeding Sarah made my skin crawl. I wanted to believe it couldn't be Jason, or my sister, or anyone I trusted, but the paranoia was already digging in. That night, as I was going through old messages on my phone, I froze. There, buried in my sent folder, was a text I knew I hadn't written. To Sarah. It read, "I don't care about Emily. She'll see that eventually." My blood ran cold. And then it hit me. Someone wasn't just helping Sarah. Someone had hacked my phone. I sat there staring at the glowing screen, my throat tightening as if invisible hands were closing around it. That text wasn't mine. The words didn't even sound like me. And yet, there it was, sitting in my sent folder, time-stamped from 2 nights ago while I'd been asleep. I tried to convince myself it was a glitch, but the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. Sarah must have gotten into my account somehow. Maybe she had guessed my passwords, maybe someone gave them to her, but either way, she was planting evidence, brick by brick, building a wall between me and my daughter. The next visitation was scheduled for Saturday. I barely slept the nights leading up to it. When the day came, I pulled up to Sarah's house determined to fight for Emily, to show her I was still the same dad she'd always loved. But when the door opened, Emily didn't run into my arms like she used to. She stood there, clutching a stuffed bear, her eyes wide and uncertain. Behind her, Sarah leaned against the doorframe with a smirk that cut straight through me. "Emily," Sarah cooed, "why don't you tell Daddy what you told me?" Emily's little voice wavered. You said you don't care about me." The world spun. My knees almost buckled. "No, Emily, I never said that. I would never." I turned to Sarah. "You put that in her head. You're lying to her." Sarah tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Oh, but she saw the message, Mark. Children don't lie." I looked down at Emily, tears welling in her eyes. She was caught between 2 worlds, and Sarah was twisting her mind like clay. I crouched down, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Sweetheart, listen to me. That message wasn't from me. Someone is trying to make me look bad. I love you more than anything." Emily shifted uncomfortably, her little fingers tightening on the bear. She wanted to believe me. I could see it, but Sarah's presence loomed behind her like a shadow she couldn't escape. Sarah's voice sliced through the air. "Visits canceled. Come back when you've sorted out your lies." And before I could say another word, the door slammed shut. I stood there on the porch, fists clenched, my heart pounding in my chest. I had just lost another moment with my daughter, and Sarah had won this round. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something wedged into the edge of the porch railing. A small flash drive, wrapped in black tape. I picked it up, glancing around the empty street, my heart racing. Someone was leaving me breadcrumbs. I sat in my car gripping the little flash drive like it was a live grenade. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked pale, haunted. Who would have left it there? Was it a trap from Sarah to push me further into a corner, or a lifeline from someone who knew what she was doing? My hands trembled as I slid the drive into my laptop later that night. The folder inside was simply labeled Truth. I clicked, half expecting viruses or garbage files. Instead, dozens of screenshots filled the screen. Conversations between Sarah and her lawyer, her sister, even her own mother. My pulse roared in my ears as I scrolled. Messages about manipulating visitation schedules, about making Emily fear me, about crafting false evidence. And then, there it was, screenshots of Sarah logging into my accounts. She had written the fake texts herself, laughing with her sister about how gullible the court would be. I couldn't breathe. The bile rose in my throat. She wasn't just twisting Emily against me. She was orchestrating a full-scale character assassination. Then I opened a video file. My heart nearly stopped. The screen showed Sarah in her kitchen, phone in one hand, wine glass in the other, bragging to someone on a call. "He won't know what hit him. By the time I'm done, the judge will think he's a danger to his own kid. I'll make sure Emily never wants to see him again." Her words echoed in my head, searing themselves into my skull. I slammed the laptop shut, shaking, staring into the dark room. But as I tried to process, another question hit me like a hammer. Who recorded this? There was only one logical answer. Someone close to Sarah. Someone on the inside who wanted me to know the truth. I stared back at the flash drive, my mind spinning. Whoever left it wanted me to fight, wanted me to expose her. The next morning, I drove back to Sarah's street. My plan was simple. Watch. Wait. See if I could catch whoever had slipped me the evidence. Hours crawled by in my parked car. And then I saw her, Sarah's own mother, sneaking out of the house, glancing nervously around, clutching another envelope. She walked straight toward the same porch railing where I'd found the drive. Would her own mother be betraying her? Or was I about to step into another one of Sarah's traps? I stepped out of the car before my nerves could talk me out of it. "Mrs. Carter?" I called softly, my voice cracking against the cold morning air. She froze, clutching the envelope tighter, her eyes darting like a cornered animal. For a moment, I thought she'd run. Instead, she sighed heavily and turned toward me, her face lined with something between guilt and fear. "You weren't supposed to see me," she whispered. I swallowed hard, my fists clenched at my sides. "Was it you? The flash drive? Those files, was that you?" Her lips trembled. She nodded. "I couldn't let her go on like this. What she's doing to you, to Emily, it's wrong. I've begged her to stop, but she won't listen. She's obsessed." My chest tightened. This was Sarah's mother, her own blood, admitting she'd turned against her daughter. "Why help me now?" I asked, my voice barely holding steady. Tears welled in her eyes. "Because Emily deserves better. She's my granddaughter, not a pawn. Sarah thinks she's protecting Emily from you, but really she's poisoning her against love itself. I can't watch her grow up like that." She pressed the envelope into my hands. "More proof. She brags to me like I'll always take her side. But I can't carry this anymore. Use it before it's too late." I opened the envelope inside my car. Inside were printed emails, Sarah sending fake complaints to the school about me, twisting every little incident into evidence of neglect. There were receipts for private investigators she'd hired to follow me, trying to catch me in something, anything she could use. And then there was the worst, a draft of a restraining order she was preparing, full of fabricated stories. She planned to tell the court I'd screamed at Emily, that I'd threatened Sarah in public, lies designed to make me look unhinged. My stomach churned as I gripped the papers. My ex-wife was prepared to erase me completely, to make me into a monster in my daughter's eyes. But now, I had her mother on my side. Still, part of me couldn't shake the dread. If Sarah found out her own mother was betraying her, the fallout would be catastrophic. And then, as I drove home, my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Stop digging, or you'll lose Emily for good." The message burned on my phone screen like a warning flare. "Stop digging, or you'll lose Emily for good." My grip tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Who was it? Sarah? One of her friends? Or someone she'd paid to keep tabs on me? I pulled into my driveway, my chest heaving. The neighborhood felt suddenly hostile. Every curtain a watchful eye, every passing car a threat. I killed the engine and just sat there, the silence inside the car pressing down on me. Part of me wanted to call Sarah immediately, scream into the phone, demand to know if she was behind this. But that's exactly what she wanted, to rattle me, to make me lose control. And if she was already building a case that I was unstable, one angry outburst would hand her the ammunition. Instead, I walked inside and locked the door. My hands shook as I spread Mrs. Carter's documents across the kitchen table. The proof was damning, but it also painted a target on my back. If Sarah realized her mother had betrayed her, she wouldn't just lash out. She'd scorch the earth. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Think about what's best for your daughter. Don't make this ugly." I stared at the words, while rising in my throat. They were threatening me, yes, but worse, they were dangling Emily like bait, as if her love was a prize I could only win by surrendering. I had a choice. Back down, keep the fragile peace, and risk losing Emily slowly to Sarah's lies, or push forward, knowing every step would drag us deeper into war. I didn't even realize I'd whispered out loud until I heard my own voice echo through the empty house. "She doesn't get to take my daughter from me." The decision was made. I gathered the papers into a folder and slid them into my desk drawer. But as I turned the key to lock it, a sound froze me in place. A faint creak upstairs. The house should have been empty. My pulse spiked. I wasn't alone. The sound was unmistakable, floorboards groaning under weight that wasn't mine. I froze at the bottom of the stairs, my breath shallow. Every instinct screamed at me to grab the phone, to call someone, but my legs moved on their own. Slowly, I climbed, each step dragging with dread. "Emily," my voice cracked. I knew she wasn't here. She was with Sarah, but I needed to say it, to hear something back that wasn't silence. No answer. Halfway up, I spotted it. A shadow slipping under the crack of the guest room door. My throat went dry. I pushed the door open fast, bracing for a figure. But the room was empty. Neat. Untouched. My heart pounded in my ears. Then I heard it, soft movement from my bedroom down the hall. I forced myself forward. My hand shook as I pushed the door open. The curtains swayed though the window was shut tight. My drawers were open, clothes tossed carelessly onto the floor. Someone had been searching. I spun around, scanning every corner, but the room was empty. Whoever was there was gone, or hiding. I checked the closet. Empty. The bathroom. Nothing. My nerves were raw, my hands trembling. But then I saw it. On the edge of my bed, resting neatly as if placed on purpose, was one of the documents I'd locked away. A custody statement. And scrawled across it in red marker were 4 chilling words. She belongs to me. The air left my lungs in a sharp gasp. My safe space, my home, had been violated. Someone had gotten inside, bypassed the lock, rifled through my things, and left me this message like a signature. I stumbled back, clutching the paper, every nerve screaming in panic. That's when the realization hit me, sharp as a blade. This wasn't just Sarah playing dirty in court anymore. This was war inside my walls. The next morning, I called the police. My voice was still shaky as I explained that someone had broken in, searched through my things, and left a threat. 2 officers arrived, polite but skeptical, their eyes scanning the tossed drawers and scattered clothes. Nothing's forced, one of them said, brushing his flashlight over the lock on my front door. No signs of entry. You sure you didn't misplace the papers yourself? I clenched my fists. You think I wrote a threat to myself? Look at this. I shoved the custody statement at him, the red marker glaring like blood. He took it, turned it over, shrugged. Could be anyone. Do you have enemies? I laughed bitterly. Besides my ex-wife? That earned me a look. One officer jotted notes while the other leaned against the wall, unimpressed. Sir, unless you've got cameras or witnesses, there's not much we can do. No forced entry, no theft, just a messy room. The dismissal stung worse than the fear. I felt like a madman, begging them to believe me. After they left, I sat in the quiet of the violated house, staring at the statement. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. Stop lying to Emily. She told me what you've been saying. She's scared of you. My blood ran cold. The gaslighting had started. I typed furiously, what are you talking about? She saw me once in the last month. I haven't lied to her. But before I could hit send, another message came through. A photo. Emily, curled up on Sarah's couch, looking small, clutching a stuffed bear I hadn't seen since she was 4. Underneath it, Sarah had written, she feels safe here. Not with you. I nearly dropped the phone. My chest heaved with rage, grief, helplessness. Sarah wasn't just manipulating the courts. She was poisoning my daughter against me, brick by brick, moment by moment. But the bear, that wasn't just a toy. That bear was mine. A gift I gave Emily when she was born, something I kept in her room in my house. Which meant someone hadn't just been in my home. They had stolen from me. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Emily's little arms wrapped around the faded brown bear I thought was still sitting on her bed in my house. My chest ached, like someone had ripped open my ribs. That bear wasn't just a toy. It was our history. I bought it the day she was born. I held it against her tiny body when she was only hours old. I had read her bedtime stories while she clutched it, and when she was scared of thunderstorms, she buried her face into its fur. It had never left my house. Until now. I stormed into her room and tore it apart. The blanket was twisted, her pillow tossed aside. The spot on the shelf where the bear had always sat now glaringly empty. They'd been here. Someone had entered my home, walked into my daughter's private space, and stolen the one thing she'd never let go of. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sarah. She says you shout, that you scare her. She doesn't want to come over anymore. I couldn't breathe. That wasn't just manipulation. That was a complete rewriting of reality. Emily had begged for our weekends. She'd cried when Sarah canceled. And now Sarah was feeding lies into her mouth, pulling strings until my daughter's memories bent into something else. I called. Straight to voicemail. Again and again. No answer. My throat burned as I left message after message. Sarah, this has gone too far. You can't just take things from my house. You can't twist her against me. I will fight this. But even as I said it, doubt crawled in. What if Emily had already started to believe? What if every story Sarah told was lodging itself in her head, replacing what she actually remembered with something poisoned? That night, I sat awake on the couch, clutching my phone, scrolling through old pictures of Emily laughing in my arms, clutching the same bear that had now been weaponized against me. At 2 a.m., I got another text. This time, it wasn't from Sarah. It was from an unknown number. "Stop digging. You'll lose her for good." The text glared back at me, its words burning into my skull. "Stop digging. You'll lose her for good." My fingers trembled as I reread it, over and over, hoping I had misinterpreted. But no, someone was warning me, or threatening me. My first instinct was Sarah. It had her venom all over it. But why hide behind an unknown number if she had no problem sending daggers straight from her own phone? Unless she wasn't acting alone. I typed back before I could second-guess myself. "Who is this? What do you want?" No reply. Minutes crawled by. Silence. I tried to convince myself it was just some scare tactic, but deep down, I knew this went beyond petty co-parenting games. Sarah wasn't just trying to win Emily's favor. She was building a story, a narrative where I was the villain. And whoever had sent that message, they were part of it. The next morning, I went to pick Emily up from school. I stood by the gates like I always did, scanning the crowd of children running into their parents' arms. But she wasn't there. My heart lurched. I checked the time. 10 minutes late. 15. 20. Panic squeezed my lungs. Then I saw her, walking hand in hand with Sarah, who wasn't even supposed to be there. Emily spotted me and hesitated, her little face clouded with something I'd never seen directed at me before: suspicion. "Daddy," she said softly, her voice uncertain, "why did you yell at me on the phone?" My knees nearly buckled. "Sweetheart, I never." I turned to Sarah, my words sharp, but she only smirked. "You see," she said, her tone dripping with triumph. "She remembers." But it wasn't a memory. It was a planted seed, one Sarah had watered until Emily believed it was true. I bent down, desperate to hold my daughter's gaze. "Emily, I would never yell at you. Never. You know that." But she pulled her hand back. My hand shook as I watched her cling tighter to Sarah's arm. And then Sarah leaned in, her breath brushing my ear so Emily couldn't hear. "I told you to stop digging." Her words echoed in my skull long after she walked away. Emily's small figure swallowed beside her. I stood frozen, fists clenched, my chest tightening like a vice. That threat, soft, calculated, meant only for me, was the confirmation I needed. She wasn't just poisoning Emily's mind. She was orchestrating something bigger. That night, I sat in my apartment, the silence broken only by the hum of my fridge. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old voicemails, texts, anything that might prove Sarah's manipulation. Nothing concrete, just my own desperate messages asking for time with Emily. But then it hit me. She was too confident, too smug. She wasn't worried about hiding her lies because she believed no one would catch her. I decided to change that. The next day, I bought a small voice recorder and slipped it into my jacket pocket. It was reckless, maybe even desperate, but I was running out of options. When I went to Sarah's house to talk things through, she greeted me with her usual venom. "You don't get to keep barging into my life," she snapped, standing in the doorway. "I'm not here to fight," I said evenly, though my heart thundered. "I just want Emily to hear the truth." Her lips curled into a cruel smile. "The truth? You mean the truth where you scare her with your temper? The truth where you're never around? Or the truth where you beg me to cover for your failures?" Every word pierced me, but I forced myself to stay calm, to let her keep talking. And she did. For 20 long minutes, she wove her web of lies, painting me as a monster, all while Emily sat in the next room, silent, small. When I left, my hands were shaking, but not from anger, from hope, because tucked inside my pocket, the recorder held every twisted word she had spewed. For the first time in months, I felt like I had a weapon of my own. But when I listened back to the recording later, my stomach dropped, because a second voice appeared in the background. One I hadn't expected at all. I replayed the recording over and over, headphones pressed tight against my ears, straining to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Sarah's voice was clear, venom dripping with every accusation, but behind it, faint yet unmistakable, came another voice. Male. Calm. Advising her. I froze. It wasn't just Sarah orchestrating this campaign against me. She had help. I scrubbed the audio back to the moment. Sarah, he doesn't deserve her. If he fights me, I'll make sure Emily hates him. And then, muffled but clear enough. Good. Keep pushing that. Judges always side with mothers if the kid's scared enough. The room spun. That voice belonged to Mark, Sarah's brother. The same man who once shook my hand at our wedding, promising to treat me like family. The same man who had testified during our divorce that I was an okay dad, but too unstable for full custody. It all clicked. Sarah wasn't acting alone. Mark was feeding her tactics, bolstering her case, ensuring I looked like the villain from every angle. My hands trembled as I paused the playback. Rage boiled through me, but under it was fear. Fear that this alliance went deeper than I could imagine. How many others were involved? How far would they go? The next visitation, Emily barely spoke a word to me. She sat stiff on the couch, her little arms crossed, eyes glazed. I tried everything. Jokes, board games, even her favorite macaroni and cheese. But her responses were cold, distant. When I finally asked what was wrong, she whispered, "Uncle Mark says you're dangerous." Her voice cracked on the word, and I felt my chest cave in. I didn't argue with her. I couldn't. Instead, I hugged her gently and whispered, "One day, sweetheart, you'll know the truth." That night, as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the recorder on my nightstand, I realized one thing. Evidence wasn't enough. I had to expose them both, and the next move would have to happen in court. The courtroom smelled faintly of wood polish and stale coffee. I sat at the plaintiff's table, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles turned white. Across the aisle, Sarah wore a smug smile, her lawyer whispering in her ear. And right behind her, sitting tall in a navy suit, was Mark. His presence wasn't subtle. It was a message: we've got this locked down. The judge entered, and everyone rose. My attorney leaned toward me. "Stay calm. Today's the day." The hearing was supposed to be routine, updates on visitation. But I had come armed. When Sarah's lawyer began spinning the same tired narrative, me as unstable, unfit, a threat to Emily, I forced myself to keep my expression neutral. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might echo in the room. Then came my turn. My attorney called me to the stand. I described my visits with Emily, the sudden hostility, the words she used that no child her age could invent. The judge nodded politely, jotting notes, but I knew words alone wouldn't cut it. That's when my attorney pulled out the USB stick. "We'd like to submit audio evidence, Your Honor," she said. Sarah's head snapped up. Mark stiffened in his chair. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Proceed." The courtroom went silent as the recording played. Sarah's voice filled the chamber, venomous and unmistakable. "He doesn't deserve her. If he fights me, I'll make sure Emily hates him." Gasps rippled through the gallery. I didn't move, just stared straight ahead. Then came the second voice. Mark's voice. Calm, instructive, calculating. "Good. Keep pushing that. Judges always side with mothers if the kid's scared enough." The silence afterward was deafening. Sarah's face drained of color, her lawyer frantically whispering at her side. Mark leaned forward, his jaw clenched, eyes darting like a cornered animal. The judge finally spoke, voice like steel. "Is that your voice, Mr. Davis?" Mark froze. The walls of their lies had begun to crumble, and I could see Sarah's empire of manipulation starting to collapse with them. For a few long seconds, no one breathed. The audio still seemed to hang in the air, echoing in every corner of that courtroom. Mark's throat bobbed as he tried to form words, but nothing came out. Sarah leaned toward him, her whisper sharp and panicked. "Say something." The judge slammed his gavel once. "Answer the question, Mr. Davis. Is that your voice on this recording?" Mark finally cleared his throat, forcing a weak laugh. It could be edited. People can fake anything these days. Deep fakes, spliced recordings." "Enough," the judge cut him off. His gaze was hard, unblinking. "That sounds remarkably authentic, and the court will verify its legitimacy." Sarah's lawyer scrambled to object, stammering about chain of custody and authenticity, but the damage was done. Everyone in that room had heard it. Emily's mother and her boyfriend conspiring to poison a child's heart. I looked at Sarah then. For the first time since this nightmare began, her mask slipped. The smugness, the condescension, it all drained away, leaving only panic. She stared at the judge, then at me, her lips trembling as though she might scream or cry but couldn't decide which. My attorney rose again. Your Honor, this recording was obtained legally, and we also have phone records to corroborate the dates of these conversations. Together, they reveal a deliberate campaign of parental alienation. The judge nodded slowly. If what you're presenting holds up under review, this court will not tolerate manipulation of a child in custody matters. His voice hardened. Not under any circumstances. Sarah suddenly slammed her palms on the table. This is ridiculous. He's twisting everything. I'm protecting my daughter. Her voice cracked, shrill, echoing against the wooden panels. The judge's eyes narrowed. Mrs. Davis, one more outburst like that, and I will hold you in contempt. Her lawyer tugged at her sleeve, but she yanked away, glaring at me with an intensity that made my stomach turn. There was no remorse there, only fury at being caught. The judge leaned forward, his words deliberate and heavy. Given the seriousness of this evidence, I will be ordering an emergency review of custody arrangements. Effective immediately, visitation rights will be expanded for the father. My chest tightened. For the first time in months, hope didn't feel like a cruel joke. But just as relief washed over me, Sarah stood, her voice trembling with rage. You think you've won? You don't know what he's hiding. You don't know what kind of man he really is. Every head in the room turned toward me. And in that instant, I realized she wasn't done yet. She was about to play her most dangerous card. Her words sliced through the courtroom like broken glass. You don't know what kind of man he really is. The entire room went tense. Even the judge, who had just finished reprimanding her, leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing as if bracing for the storm. Sarah's lawyer tried to pull her down into her seat, but she jerked free. Her face was red, eyes wild. He's not the saint you all think he is. He's hiding things. Ask him about the night he disappeared, about the money that went missing from his old job. My stomach dropped. It was a low blow, a desperate lunge in front of an audience that was already turning against her. And the worst part? It wasn't entirely false. Years ago, when the divorce first started tearing me apart, I'd spiraled. I left work without notice one night, ignored calls, and for 3 days drowned myself in whiskey and grief. When I finally surfaced, my boss told me company funds had been misfiled, money I never touched, but I had no proof to defend myself. The stain on my record had followed me ever since. Gasps filled the room. I felt every pair of eyes boring into me. The judge's eyebrows rose, and my attorney stiffened at my side. But before Sarah could continue her tirade, Mark jumped to his feet, grabbing her arm. Sit down, Sarah, he hissed. His panic was obvious. He knew her outburst wasn't strategy, it was implosion. The judge pounded the gavel. Enough, his voice thundered. This is a custody hearing, not a trial of character assassination. Unless you have evidence of wrongdoing, Mrs. Davis, I will not entertain baseless accusations. Sarah froze, her chest heaving. She realized, maybe for the first time, that the judge wasn't buying her act anymore. Slowly, she sank back into her chair, her fury simmering beneath the surface. My attorney rose, her tone steady but sharp. Your Honor, this is precisely the behavior we've been warning about. The mother is willing to say anything, to destroy the father, even in front of her own child. That is emotional abuse. The judge nodded once, heavy and deliberate. He shuffled his papers, then looked me dead in the eye. Mr. Davis, the court recognizes the hardship you've endured. Effective immediately, custody will be shared 50-50, pending full investigation. Until this matter is fully resolved, the child will not be used as leverage by either parent. The sound of the gavel echoed, final and absolute. Relief flooded me, but it was tangled with something darker. Because as Sarah sat beside Mark, seething and whispering under her breath, I knew this wasn't the end. The custody battle might have turned in my favor, but her rage, her need to win, was far from finished. And deep down, I realized something chilling. If Sarah couldn't control Emily through lies, she might try something even worse.